Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar. I'm really excited about the topic. I think this is one of the most important and also interesting topics in all of financial advisor marketing. To kick it off, I want to tell you a quick story. In 1848, a man named James Marshall accidentally discovered something shiny in a riverbed near Sutter's Mill, California. He told the mill's owner, and the two of them together tried to keep their discovery of gold a secret. But soon the word got out, and in just a few months, hundreds of thousands of people across the entire United States and beyond were rushing to California in search of gold. Now, the vast majority of prospectors, as you know, found little to nothing. This is largely because they practice something called placer mining, a form of prospecting that looks on the surface for what's called extensive deposits, vast but unconcentrated lodes of gold that are scattered across the landscape. Spending most of their time in riverbeds trying to find a hint of anything shiny in panfuls of sand, most of these prospectors were only able to carve out a very meager living. In 1849, however, two brothers named Alan and Hosea Grosh arrived on the scene. Now, unlike most miners, the Grosh brothers were trained chemists, and they had a deep understanding of metallurgy far beyond what most prospectors had at the time. They brought with them maps and equipment for identifying what's called intensive deposits, concentrated bodies of high-grade ore that could be predicted based on nearby hydrothermal activity, magma, and most especially other chemical elements. They would systematically identify and then verify areas they believed were most likely to contain gold and silver. And in the process, they discovered something called the Comstock Lode, which was a massive vein of silver ore in western Nevada near Lake Tahoe. Now, sadly, the brothers both died before they become wealthy due to their discovery, but the techniques and the process that they put in place laid the foundation for all modern prospecting methods that are far more reliable and far more profitable than placer mining could ever be. Now, the reason I'm giving you this little history lesson is because financial advisors, all financial advisors, have a choice when it comes to their own prospecting. They can practice placer mining, hoping that with either sheer luck or sheer effort, they can find actual gold within a list of potential leads. Or they can take a page out of the Grosh Brothers book and apply an actual process to their prospecting, identifying and verifying who the true highest quality leads are, and then systematically developing those leads into first appointments. In today's webinar, Matt Hicken, who's our Senior Vice President of Consulting, and in my opinion, the single most knowledgeable coach in the entire industry, although I'm sure he would humbly dispute that, is going to break down our process, a process that Bill Good himself created, tested, and verified, and that Matt Hicken has been updating and perfecting ever since. So to get going, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've got a super busy schedule consulting with advisors, but if you don't mind, give us a quick intro about who you are for those who don't know you. Tell us a bit about your experience in the industry and with Bill Good Marketing.
Yeah, well, thanks for that glowing introduction. But yeah, so I've been in the industry for about 25 years. Started off working with Bill Good, and then went out and worked with an advisor out in North Carolina. Did that for almost 14 years. Became fully licensed, operated as the head of marketing, the team manager, managed our prospecting efforts, but then also acted as an advisor also in working with existing clients and even meeting with prospects. In that process, I learned a lot, but found that there were a lot more that could be done. When I moved back to Utah with my family, I let Bill Good know, and he immediately brought me back. Now I've been traveling around and visiting with some of the biggest and best teams all across North America for the last 5 years, helping them build their own systems and manage their own teams.
That's awesome. I'm always really thrilled whenever you can join me on a webinar because even though I've been with Bill Good Marketing for almost 19 years now, I always learn something new whenever whenever I have a chance to hear you talk and hear you teach, and you always present things and explain things in such novel and interesting ways. So it's always a personal
Thank
pleasure
you.
for me whenever I get to do one of these with you, Matt.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it too.
And for those who don't know me, I am the other Matt. I'm Matthew Bailey. I'm the director of content here at Bill Good Marketing. So I write all of the content that our advisors use with their clients and prospects. And I'll explain a little bit more later on in this webinar why that matters and what's important about it. Now, before we get into the actual topic, just a few notes of housekeeping. If you are new to our webinars, one of the things we want you to know is that we welcome your questions. If you have any questions for Matt at any point, please just pop them into the chat and then we'll get them over to Matt as quickly as we can and he'll answer them for you. And then another nifty thing we do in all of our webinars is we like to give you a little thank you for giving us an hour of your time. And we do that through the form of what we call a goodie bag. Now, each goodie bag in these webinars contains one or more resources that you can use to begin applying the things that you learn on our webinars. In today's goodie bag, we have a very special guidebook all about what Bill calls the sales pipeline. The pipeline, which we'll break down in just a little bit here, about how you move leads from first finding out who they are all the way to onboarding them as your client. And this guidebook provides some really interesting and helpful information on how you can manage your sales pipeline and ensure your leads and prospects are moving through in a consistent, predictable, and profitable manner. So we'll show you how to get that guidebook at the end of this webinar. So make sure you stick around for that. All right, let's jump right in. To begin with, Matt, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the core problem that we're trying to solve here and the most important opportunities we're trying to help advisors seize here, sort of the why of this webinar. Many times over the years, I've heard you express to advisors that a lot of modern day prospecting methods have devolved into simply looking for the easiest possible way to get a name. So I'd like for you to break that down for a little bit for us and sort of talk about why this topic, lead development, is so important.
Yeah, and I do get a little passionate about it because this is one of those things that early days when I first started working with Bill Good, he taught these principles. And I feel like obviously at the time, 25 years ago, there were a lot of these new methods of gaining prospects and going out there and finding leads didn't exist. And so his descriptions honestly are amazing. And his definitions, the fact that they still fit, in fact, even better so today, lead me to get a little impassioned just because I want people to understand something that Bill's been trying to help them understand for decades. And that is the difference between a name, a lead, and an actual prospect. Because early day, I mean, this is his more modern book, the Hot Prospects book. But Matt, you've got a couple of the older ones in your bookshelves, but they all say the same thing as far as the various definitions and why that definition is so important. So we've changed up a little bit about what a name is, because a name used to just be somebody that hopefully is qualified based upon where they live or based upon some demographic data or something along those lines. We have no clue if they need help. We have no clue if they actually are qualified or if they're even interested at all in a financial advisor at this time. But now with some really cool technology advances and some capabilities that are out there, and then some great programs that go out there and generate leads. And I do say great because I mean that. But they are still generating names and hopefully qualified people that are interested in something, and often even in a financial advisor. Like they're asking for a financial advisor to talk to them, but there's nothing yet that says that they are interested in you being their financial advisor. We know that people make emotional decisions and they're going to decide to work with somebody that they trust. And at this stage, they have no idea who you are because all they've done is responded to an online survey. They have their data out there somewhere. Some lead development source has pulled their information out and said, yes, this person is out there looking for a financial advisor. We just need them to know you, which comes down to a lead, right? So a lead is somebody that you have verified is both interested and qualified. And let me explain the interested side because it's key there. They're interested in you, right? They now know who you are. They have an idea of your brand and your ability to help them, and they're interested in that fact. So, and then obviously they have to be a decision maker and be capable of making that decision now. And if it's something in the future, we'll categorize that and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that is what a lead is. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is where we differ from most people out there. A lead, you'll notice, says someone. That could be a client or a prospect. An existing client could have a 401k out there that they're looking for advice on. We had clients that had small accounts with us, but then sold their business for millions. Well, in that case, for the millions of the sell, they are a lead. We need to do the job to show them that we are the person qualified to help them with that portion of their assets. So that is still a lead as a client, but a prospect is also a lead. So that's why we have that different definition to maintain that understanding of these leads are all people that we are targeting for meetings and to move forward in the sales cycle, which obviously then stands to a reason that we have to define a prospect. So a prospect is anybody who is interested and qualified and is actively expressing that interest, but they don't currently have an account with you. Now, obviously, what we really want are the hot prospects. So, in other words, those A-level prospects that are willing to set an appointment now. And there are keys to maintaining those hot prospects, and we'll talk about those in a minute.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is so crucial, Matt, because we're not just splitting hairs here. We're not arguing semantics when it comes to the definitions of names versus leads versus hot prospects. The core issue, and we see this all the time here at Bill Good Marketing, and you can verify yourself. All you have to do is go to the CFP, Reddit subreddit, and look at all the posts about this topic there. So many advisors spend so much time on names, time and money on people who they may be a lead, but they very well may not be a lead. They may be interested, they may not be. They may be qualified, they may not be. We don't know. Furthermore, I would argue that just as important is when someone's a name, you don't know whether they're interested in you. You also don't know yet whether you're interested in them. They may not be the type of person that you want to work with, either because they're not qualified or they are qualified, but they want things that you don't really provide, etc. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to establish a process that ensures you are not wasting time and money and effort or team power on people who are just names, but instead we're trying to find out who the actual leads are so we can turn them in to hot prospects. And that's the goal of this process we're going to break down for you here in just a minute. So you talked about the definition of a lead, but within a lead, there are a number of subclassifications, you could argue, because not all leads are the same. Not all leads want the same things or are in the same state of qualification or interest or readiness. You want, ideally, every single lead based off of Matt's definition to eventually become a hot prospect and then eventually become a client. But in order for that to happen, you have to understand where leads are within the cycle, because where they are will determine what you do next. And by doing the correct things at the right time, we can move people through the pipeline up to being that hot prospect. So Matt, if you could, please break down the different types of lead classifications that we help advisors understand and work with here at Bill Good Marketing.
Yeah, totally. Well, and before I dive into that, because I've taught a lot of in-person classes, and there's always this moment where you have a really cool slide like this up, and everybody's got to take a picture of it. So let me just save you some time. This booklet that you're going to get if you fill out the brief little question at the end and get that goodie bag gives you all of what I'm about to tell you. So just you can download that. You don't have to pause and try to do a print screen or anything. So that being said, obviously 212 degrees, they're boiling, and that's client. Right? They're the hottest you can possibly get. They have already decided to work with you, so that works great. So let's talk about the A prospects, the hot prospects. These leads are the ones that they have expressed interest in your goods and services. They have decided to set an appointment. But here's where the keys are. Number one, anybody who is a hot lead, so in other words, an A-level lead, they are the ones that I need to always have an appointment. So I think always have an appointment. This is where a lot of advisors can often fail. We do that whole thing where we sit down in front of a prospect and or we're talking to a prospect and everything sounds great, and they don't have their calendar with them, so they're going to get back to us. We call them nothing. We call them nothing. We don't hear from them for weeks. We try every last ditch effort we can and nothing happens. So they ghost you. So that is not something we want to have happen. So there's always an appointment that's had. In fact, if they tell me, oh, I don't have my calendar, I can't schedule anything. Oh, well, tell me, what if I called you tomorrow morning? Would you have your calendar then? And then we could get that scheduled. So let's say around 9 o'clock. Could I call you 9 o'clock in the morning? Oh, that should work great. I've got an appointment, right? It's an appointment to schedule an appointment, but it's an appointment. And that's it. That's a key point. So the second thing I need to always do with A-level leads is I need to make sure that they always have an assignment. They have something to do themselves in order to help this relationship move forward. Not only does that help them engage, but it also helps you see that, yeah, okay, this is the kind of person I want to work with because they're active. They're doing the things that they need to do. This advisory relationship is certainly not one way. So we definitely need them to be moving forward. So let's go to the next one. That's the B level leads. A B level lead, the key here is I'm looking to build trust, right? I know they're interested. I know they're qualified, but there's something that they need from you to then know that you are the uniquely qualified advisor to help them solve their problems, right? So most referrals that come in, introductions that come to events, as you go and you call these leads that are coming off of these lead sources and you talk to them and everything seems great, but they're not quite ready for an appointment or they're just kind of thinking through things, I would label them as a B-level lead. And the reason why they're not setting an appointment with you is because they don't know you enough yet. They don't know if you are the one uniquely qualified to help them get their stuff done. So our goal there is to profile. What do they need? What are they looking for? What do they want from this relationship? What was the impetus for them filling out that online questionnaire, which is, very different from all the other questionnaires, like, which Hogwarts house do you belong to? They filled out a financial questionnaire, which tells me something was going on. So that kind of a person, I need to find out what that is so that I can demonstrate that I have a unique way of approaching that I have a way of approaching that, right? Not just I'm an advisor, so obviously I know, but I have a process to put them through that'll help them get to their desired result. So build trust through profiling and then sending correct information. It really comes down to, we'll talk about the trusted advisor in a minute, but I need to show them that I truly am an expert and a kind, caring individual. Mm-hmm. That comes down to then our C-level leads. Our C-level leads, I know this is silly, but I'm going with it because it makes me laugh. So C-level leads, we're going to see them later, right? So in other words, we've got all of their information. We know what's going on. In fact, they probably were fairly forthcoming. It's one of those things, I filled out that questionnaire because I'm going to retire January 1st of 2027. Cool. Well, it's March of 2026. We're not quite there yet, meaning they don't quite have the money. Or if they're, hey, I'm in the process of selling my business. I've got some interested buyers. We're in negotiations. Until that closes, I'm not going to have anything, but I just wanted to start getting some questions answered. Great. What's my job here? Become their advisor now, right? And this is one of those things that, again, Bill taught forever ago, and for some reason gets kind of lost along the way in the industry, despite him telling this to everybody for 50 years. And that is, manage the assets. You find the assets, you manage them, then you bring them over to your management, right? And that sounds silly, but the idea is if somebody's got a 401k and they're going to need to roll that over, and that 401k is going to need to provide income throughout their retirement, I need to start providing advice on what to do with that 401k now to maximize that end result. If they're looking to sell a business, I need to be the one sending them educational articles talking about some things to consider on the tax side, on the estate side, to make sure they are prepared for this lump sum coming in and then what that's going to do for them going forward after the sale. So start advising now so that when that later time comes, there is no option, there is no choice, there is no looking for an advisor, they already have one. Which, of course, then gets us to our next level, which are our D level prospects, and there's a few different groups of these. Our D-level prospects fall into, first off, a lot of the names that I get off from these lead sources. We need to get more information. They may be qualified, and at the very least, they're interested enough to see some information. Most likely, they got this thing link, maybe pulled a link from your website. I had an advisor we were working with to develop SEO, and everything just went way beyond what we were hoping. And he was suddenly getting lots of people downloading his free book from his website. It's an info lead, right? We have no idea who they are. We have no idea if they're qualified, but they certainly want information from us. So this is a great option. But with an info lead, what I need to do is qualify them. So it's absolutely critical to start profiling now. Send the information, start profiling and gathering as much data as you possibly can. The second type of D level lead is our pitch and miss. And these are the people that I sit down with. I made my proposal, and for whatever reason, they said, we're going to stick with our current person. Or they said, well, we've got to we gave your plan to our current person. That's always the worst one. We gave that advice and they said they could do that, so we'll just stick with them. Or, hey, things are getting crazy. We just don't have time to make a decision at this time. Thanks, but we're going to keep thinking about it. All that really means is that you missed. Right? Their actual why, their actual problem, the pain that they were looking to have solved was not solved. That's not to say you didn't solve lots of pain for them, that you didn't find lots of needs, things that they had to fix. It just means you didn't find the one they were feeling at the time. And they may not even be able to label it. But for whatever reason, we missed. It's now our job to start profiling again. I need to go back and try to find out what that actually is, what that pain actually is, so that I can then show them the gain that I can provide using my unique processes. And then, of course, there are the ghosts. These are the ones, like I mentioned earlier, that I in the appointment process, they tell you everything's great. They're super interested. They just need to think about it and to call them, in a week or so. And you call in a week or so and you don't get them. You call again and you don't get them. You call again and you don't get them. Obviously, these are the ones that I don't want to disappear, right? D, get it? So the only key here is I need to try to re-engage. So I'm going to send them emails, make phone calls. I'm going to push for a few weeks, put it off for 3 months, push again for a few weeks, and then I'm going to make the decision to stop pushing after them after that first 6 months. Sometimes people do re-engage on their own, but for the most part, and in my experience, most advisors that keep trying to re-engage those ghosts, just if you don't get them right off the bat, then you're not going to get them. So let's just move on. Sometimes, depending upon where that D-level lead came from, that ghost came from, if it came from a prospect or a referral from either a partner or an existing client, then I can always go back to that source and try to find them. But otherwise, make your efforts and move on. And then finally, someone who looks like they might be interested and qualified, but they don't know you, you don't know them. These are a lot of the name generating sources, right? So there's a difference between lead generating sources and name generating, and that some of these programs out there, just go and search for people based upon demographic information, based upon their even how they browse the websites and stuff. And they assume that person must be interested or be qualified to need a financial advisor. And so they give you a list of names to reach out to and to send information to. Great. They're very much at this lowest level here, and that I have no idea who they are. I have no idea if they're interested. They don't know who I am, so they're certainly not interested in me personally. So I've got to start building from there. This is one of the areas that I see a lot of mistakes being made. People assume that because they came up on a lead generation source, so in other words, this name generation source from AI, that means that person must be somebody that I can just dive right into and start trying to profile, or I can dive right in and try to get an appointment because obviously they're going to be great. I'm missing out. You can't jump from 20 degrees to 212 degrees within a phone call. That's not how that works. I've got to slowly warm them up and move them through the process. And then finally, the last piece that I find, Bill used to call this pit polishing, right? Where we're looking for the cherries, not the pits. We're looking for the people that are ready, they're ripe, they're ready to go. We're not looking for the people that are jerks or not ready to move forward. And he found through lots of studies, and he did this back in the early days, even before forming Bill Good, he found that too much of our time as people who are involved in trying to get other people to make changes to us and pay us to serve them, too often we are spending a lot of time taking somebody that we want to work with and trying to convince them that they want to work with us. And the reality is, it's much easier to move on, go to the next person, and keep moving it while that person just warms up. So those pits are at the very bottom. Now, sometimes those pits are jerks, or we find out they're never going to be qualified, meaning we're never going to specialize in serving somebody like them in their situation. In which case, again, move on. There's no point in us continuing to try to work with them or reach out to them or trying to warm them up, per se. Just move them out of your list and move on.
Excellent. Thank you. That's such a wealth of information, Matt. And I think there are three additional points that I'd like to make about why this idea of lead classification by temperature is so important. First of all, as I mentioned before, when you understand what type of lead you have, it dictates the actions, the level of attention that you're giving to that lead to ensure they keep moving forward. Second of all, what often happens is that leads can end up languishing in your pipeline because they're not getting attention they deserve, or because other leads who maybe don't deserve it are getting too much. We see often what we'll look at an advisor in their pipeline, and they've got a number of people who might classify as a green cherry that there's no follow-up. They just languish there. Or there may be a bunch of people who are info leads, and that's great. And but in reality, some of them might be pits, and we're not marking them perm off. We're not clearing them out, and so we're wasting, valuable time and money and energy on people who are not actually leads. And so we're not spending the time we need to ensure that info lead becomes a cherry, that cherry becomes a hot prospect. And the third thing I think is truly important to remember is this idea of lead classification also serves as a wonderful barometer of the health of your pipeline and your marketing. It's very easy for an advisor to think, well, I'm doing really great. Look at all the people I have in my pipeline. Look at all the people I have in my CRM who have expressed interest. But in reality, you may just be, you've got a ton of info leads, but very, very few B and C level leads, very few cherries, as Bill would call them. And so for whatever reason, your marketing is doing a great job at filling up your pipeline with a lot of people who are much lower in temperature and not generating enough in people who are higher in temperature, nowhere near that boiling point, as Matt explained earlier. So if you're constantly taking a look at who you have in your pipeline, who do you have that you're working with, what is their temperature, how close are they to boiling, you can know, who do I want to spend time with most, what do I have to do with next, and is my marketing actually working? Or is it just giving me a lot of unidentified frozen objects that aren't actually doing anything for me? So keep that lead classification in mind. It's an amazing shortcut to a more profitable pipeline.
Totally.
Really quick, we have a question from Michael who asks, in the letters library that you have, which I'll get to in just a few minutes here, is there a letter when you want to disengage with someone? And the answer, Michael, is yes. We have a number of letters for whenever you decide you do not want to work with somebody anymore, or you know what, the ball's in their court, you're going to leave it up to them. You can find those in the service category of our library. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so now understanding lead classification, let's actually look into how do we develop the leads that we have. Now, let's really briefly go over the common way, which is the wrong way to do it. And the wrong way that we see over and over and over is an advisor will receive a list of names, possibly with a lead score attached that's based off demographic information, a survey or questionnaire they filled out, like Matt mentioned. It may be a really great list because, like Matt mentioned, There are a ton of great companies and services and tools out there, some AI based, some not, that can provide you with extremely powerful lists. And that's excellent. But what the problem is what happens next. What many advisors end up doing, and Matt, jump in here at any point if you want to add to this or provide context, is what a lot of advisors will do is they'll then send out a form letter or an AI generated email or an AI generated DM on LinkedIn, or maybe even they do a phone call. And like Matt alluded to earlier, they immediately go for that appointment. They're trying to take someone who's got a temperature of maybe 50 or 60 degrees, maybe even lower, and immediately jump them up to that 212 or jump up to that point where at least they're going for the appointment. And what ends up happening is a whole lot of nothing. Over and over, we hear from advisors, well, I had this list or I had all these prospects and I got nothing from it, just silence.
Yeah, or the
And
worst, like we have here, Matt. Like to me, this is one of those areas that just pains me. Is when I talk to an advisor that's running one of these sources, and they tell me this thing. It's enough. It pays for itself.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, but there are opportunities out there that can, based upon what you spend on it, can over 10 times that amount. So why would you settle for it pays for itself? And then ultimately, if I'm following a process that is not actually a natural way to take somebody from not really knowing who you are to a level of saying, yes, I really want to sit down with Matt and have a great discussion. Um, you want to do that as natural as possible, right? Not just try to slam it into their face that it's, hey, this is the time to meet. And yet ultimately that's what AI does. And then the other thing, and you and I could do a whole webinar on AI, and there's some cool aspects, but then I feel like we are missing a lot of aspects because of the AI use. And there's just a difference between an email or a letter that's been drafted by a person that expresses the feelings, the thoughts, the hopes of an individual and connects then with the person who receives it and reads it, that also connects to those feelings, thoughts of an individual. That's where connection occurs. It's not the data, it's not the information that causes somebody to change. It's the feelings and emotions that make them want to get what you have.
I love that, Matt, and I'll tell you why. What we're looking at here with this process is going back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar. This is placer mining. This is in the riverbed, panning for gold, hoping something shiny appears. You can spend days, weeks, months, years doing that. Every once in a while, you may get someone. That person might pay for itself, like Matt mentioned, but it's a very low ROI activity. And the reason why that is going to what Matt just said about hopes, dreams, fears, the emotions. That is so understanding that, communicating that on that level, being able to address those things is so critical for reasons we'll get to here in just a minute. But the only way to do that is to first know what those are. Knowing what those are requires two things: skill and patience and time. AI is, like Matt said, is an extremely powerful tool. We leverage it here at Bill Good Marketing all the time. There's a lot of amazing things you can do with it. One thing that AI cannot ever do is automate or replace your skill or the time you invest in someone. Okay, so what we need to do is have a process. And Matt, I'm curious if you think I'm nailing this right here as the true expert on it, is having a process that helps you identify what those dreams, those fears, those goals, those needs, those emotions are. And then that same process must help you systematically communicate about them and address them so that every lead begins to see you as their trusted advisor, which we'll explain here in just a second. Is that accurate, Matt? Or am I
No, it's
missing?
100% accurate. And it actually just brings up, because it's a very good point. It brings up a thought that I hadn't planned on discussing on this, but this point definitely requires that we talk about that. And that is, do you have a written ideal client persona?
Mhm.
Meaning, do you have written up, and you can fake the names, that doesn't really matter. It's the kind of person that you are ideally suited to help. So are they married? Are they single? Are they a business owner? Are they not? Are they a first responder? Whoever it is, right? And then what are their hopes, fears, dreams? What are the things that they're trying to accomplish? What are some of the common obstacles that somebody in their position face? And then how are you uniquely qualified to overcome those obstacles? What processes do you have to help them through that? What information, what articles, what letters, what emails can you put together that address those particular hopes, fears, dreams, and things of your ideal client persona? That is what I want to have gathered together. Not standard form of, hey, here's how cool I am. I want to talk about how can we help you, because I know who you are. And that does become a little bit tougher with some of these name sources as far as who they are, but you can still get there with the right screening and with the right demographic, I guess paid subscriptions.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point, Matt. Thank you. So that's the wrong way to do it, the easy way, but the wrong way. Let's look at what we would call the good way, what Bill would call the good way. Um, First of all, the objectives of this process. First of all, identify who, in fact, is a real lead, who is an actual cherry, who is an info lead, who is just a pit or just a name. Then we want to begin establishing your trusted advisor identity with the people who are real leads. So they see you as the person who gets them the most, who can help them the most, the person that they can trust the most to get them to where they want to be. And then three, we're going to systematically create sufficient interest and top of mind awareness so that lead will become a hot prospect. Set that first appointment, begin the actual sales cycle with you. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we have to understand what we mean by the trusted advisor identity. If you've been on our webinars before, you probably heard us use this term. We've begun to hear others in the industry begin to catch on to this a little bit and understand it too. But this is really, really crucial because it is so timeless. A trusted advisor is someone who is held in such high esteem that the client will do whatever the advisor recommends with full belief that their advisor is acting in their best interest. Okay, that's what trust actually is. It cannot be replaced. It can't be substituted. It can't be faked. Can't be automated. It's crucial. Now, how do you do that? Well, there are three pillars to building up the trusted advisor identity. And Matt, I think it's probably better if these come from you. So why don't you break down these three pillars for us that lead to establishing a trusted advisor relationship?
Totally. And I do want to make a point from the previous slide too, but just to, and stay on this one, is that this whole process doesn't have to be lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain prospects that are teed up just right that you can go through this process in a phone call if you get them on the phone, or in a meeting if you can get them at a group setting. You can go through this whole process fairly quick. Others, yeah, it's going to take a bit, right? Maybe they've been burned before by a previous advisor. Maybe their current advisor is great. They're just kind of testing the waters to see if somebody provides the services that they're looking for that their current advisor hasn't told them about yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be a lengthy process. But the keys here, as far as your expert financial advisor identity, you have to be able to solve all of your ideal prospects' problems. So going back to that ideal client persona and all of the obstacles that they are facing, can you solve them? Like in really, not by using some form or some standard investment process, but some of those major obstacles they are facing almost have nothing to do with investments, period. And they have to do with financial and overall wealth management advice. Can you provide that best advice? If you are not qualified, so, and I say it this way because I'm one of the things I often do is work with advisors who currently their average household size is in that, maybe 300 to 600,000 range. And they would love to raise that average to 2 million. Well, great. There are different problems faced at that 2 million plus. And are you able to solve all of those problems? If you're not, get there and then demonstrate your ability to do that by taking the complex and explaining it in a simple way, by getting a lot of your material out there, talking about how you solve that complex. Because the reality is that our people are going to be looking you up. They need to be able to find stuff on that. I've been to advisors' sites who told me they specialize in a certain person, and yet that person is not mentioned at all on their website. Well, How can I see that you're my expert if it's not written anywhere? Next, obviously, and this is the one I like to explain. Look, the difference between an expert and a kind, caring, well-mannered individual is the difference between somebody that got the account and somebody that didn't. So there are a lot of experts in our industry, a lot of them. In fact, I had one advisor early days when I was out in North Carolina that absolutely brilliant, studied constantly, could not close any new business. Why? Because he was an expert. He was not out there talking to people and definitely not showing them that he was a kind, caring individual. People want to do business with somebody that they know cares about them and has their best interests at heart. You may be the biggest expert, but if you're not showing that, then you're missing out. And then finally, as far as the contributing member of the community or the good citizen side, I look at that in two ways. First off, do you contribute to the community of people that you are targeting? So in other words, the things they are interested in, the things that they are working towards, are you helping in those regards? And then finally, also, the last thing we need to do is see you in the news for various reasons. Maybe throwing a slushie at a waitress, or maybe you're drunk driving. Those kinds of things, we can't have that. Like people have asked. I've had talked to advisors before. They say, "Hey, I've got some things on my record. Is that going to be a problem?" Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not an easy thing. People are looking you up. They are looking at your record. They are trying to see, are you the kind of person that they can truly trust and work with, and not have a fear of, oh well, I can't tell anybody now that I work with so and so. So do make sure that you have that good image out there.
And I would add, in this age of social media, and that's also important. People will look up what you say, what you do, what you share on social media as well. So be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we do this? How do we identify who is a real lead? How do we build up the trusted advisor identity and create interest? Well, let's break that down now. So let's go through this step by step, the good way of lead development. So we'll start off with number one: be found, look good. What does that mean, Matt?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to try to go through these fast because I know we're running out of time. We got a lot more to cover. But so, be found, look good. I need to be easily found if somebody is searching for me. So, if your name is Bob Smith and you're in downtown LA, well, you're going to have your work cut out for you. If you're Bob Smith and you're in Jasper, Georgia, great. You probably have a little bit of an easier time, but you still need to be easily found. But it's also, if somebody's searching for certain types of questions or ideas that they're looking for online, hopefully you are found on that first page. As far as looking good, you need to be seen as the expert that the client wants you to be. So in other words, if I'm targeting that high net worth individual, they can't go to my website and see right there, big bold letters, maximizing your social security. um, it's not that the high net worth don't want to maximize their social security. In large degree, that's why they're high net worth, but that's not an attention getter. And that tells them you specialize in somebody that deals with different problems than I do. So you need to talk directly to the person that you are trying to target. So again, back to that ideal client persona drawn up.
Step two, we want to send a letter or email that offers something of immediate value, not necessarily an appointment.
Yeah, and same thing, even if I'm on the phone with them. So if I get like any of the various lead sources where you're one of a few advisors that now has to jump on it, so I'm making phone calls. I am looking to offer immediate value, something of interest. So I'm going to be asking questions to try to gauge what brought them up to answering that questionnaire, what brought them to say they need a financial advisor, and what are they primarily trying to accomplish? What are they missing from their financial plan? We have some questions we'll show you later, but once I find that out, I'm immediately sending information that can help them in that situation, and then following that up with another phone call to then potentially shoot for an appointment, depending upon where they lie.
Absolutely. And this is critical. Again, going back to lead temperature, people are not always going to be ready, and often will not be ready for that appointment right off the bat. They may be ready to get something that provides them information they really need and want, and that demonstrates your expertise, like Matt was talking about. So, step three, as Matt just said, personally call to profile, qualify the name as a real lead, and then again, offer something of immediate value if it's relevant, or go for the appointment if interest is already there. And I know, Matt, you're going to go into this in a little bit deeper here in just a minute. So we're going to move on to step number 4. Step 4 is then add that lead, assuming that they have not just, they're not already hot. They're ready to set that appointment right off the bat. There's some other form or some other level of temperature. We want to add them to your monthly drip, sending information every single month that establishes your trusted advisor identity. Not just that you're an expert, although that's hugely important, but also that you are kind and caring, and also that you're a good citizen. We'll break that down in just a minute as well. Step number 5, we want to call the lead once every 90 days to find new opportunities, offer services, answer their questions, and continue profiling them. So we continue to have a deeper understanding of their fears, their hopes, their dreams, the emotions that Matt was talking about earlier.
And that is the time frame that Bill found, and it still stays true. So those that have been around with us or heard about us for a long time and say, well, Bill Good keeps talking about these 90 days. That seems like a lot, or that seems like a little. Still the same, because it actually still holds true. So good time frame.
Absolutely. Step number 6, this is one that most advisors do not do in any way, shape, or form, but it is such a powerful thing to do, is you want to be sending all of your leads, at least all of your cherries, essentially, a birthday letter every single year, and then etiquette letters as appropriate. I'll explain etiquette letters in just a little bit as well. But this is a huge aspect of building up that trusted advisor identity, especially the kind, caring aspect that Matt talked about. When a lead gets something that has nothing to do with business, but has everything to do with you just showing, hey, I remember you, I see you, I value you, I care about you, even though you're not a client, what an amazing way of building trust. It's incredible. And then finally, the 7th step, and this is a bit more of an optional one, though obviously very powerful, is that if you do client education events, and if you don't, you definitely should, invite your leads to a client education event at least once every year. That gives them a chance to be able to come and see you, meet you in person in a much more open, free, less pressure manner than actually coming into your office for an appointment, and talk to your clients, meet them and see the kind of relationship that they have with you. It's an amazing way, an incredible shortcut at, again, building up that trusted advisor identity. I think this is a really cool thing that advisors can do, and it works very, very well.
Just throwing it out there, if they are an ideal potential client, so they are an ideal prospect, invite them to bring a friend to that. There's massive power and engagement when they bring a friend to come see you first. It's almost inevitable that you're at very least going to get an appointment. And often we found we would also get that friend as a new client.
Excellent. But this is the good way to lead development. There's nothing that's particularly complicated about any of these things. Nothing that's particularly, you don't have to have any fancy piece of technology. These are just best practices that have done consistently, done perpetually, done with each of your leads, will turn them into hot prospects. It has worked for decades and decades, and I think it works even better now than when Bill first created it, because people crave this kind of attention, this kind of service, this kind of a relationship with the various professionals in their lives. It's magic. So let's dive into some of these in a little bit more depth. And let's start off with that call to identify whether they're an actual lead, that profiling them to determine what they're truly interested in. Matt, what are some of the things we want to do on that call, that step number 3, that helps us profile and will help us develop these leads?
Yeah, well, so I mean, obviously, those on the call, y'all can read just as easily as I could read these. So I'm not going to read through them, but what I am going to talk about is that you'll notice that each one of these profiling methods, these questions, are trying to get them to start off by telling you right off the bat what got them interested in the first place, right? So what drew their attention? Because often that is the pain that they are trying to solve. Now, sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes it's just a higher level of pain that they're trying to solve, which once you dig deeper, you'll find the real thing. But at the very least, it starts the conversation. So starting by asking questions about where their overall situation lies is a great way to get going. ultimately, the easiest thing you're going to have to do is start learning how to build conversations. And the best way I've found to do that is by using that form principle. Y'all have probably heard that. It's been in sales forever, but family, occupation, recreation, money. So start by talking about their family, then move into their occupation or what they used to do or what occupies their time now, and then move into the what do they do for fun? What do they do on the side? What are some of the things that they're passionate about? And then move into the money or motivation side of things of what's going on financially, what are they missing out on. If you follow that kind of a format, which is another acronym out there, but not the one I like as much, then that will help you move forward and help these prospects see that you are able to help. And most importantly, you'll be able to find out where you can help and send that appropriate information.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, we mentioned that another step that's really important is that you are offering something that's of immediate value, not just going for that appointment right away. So, what is something of immediate value? Well, it all goes back to the things that you're learning when you're profiling, or whatever information you have from the initial list that you have. I'll give you some classic examples. One of the campaigns that Bill has long taught advisors to run is to business owners or executives at publicly traded companies. You might call them up and you might send them a letter or an email that's offering a report on their company stock. That's obviously going to be of interest and immediate value to them. You may offer them a book or a white paper on a subject that you have verified they're interested in. If you know they're interested in Social Security, it's on Social Security. If it's something that's a bit more complex than that, going to Matt's point about high net worth individuals, it's something there. And this is where having your ideal client persona can also help when it comes to building up the library of materials and things of immediate value that you have. It might even just be an invitation. It might not be some report or book or white paper or guide or whatever that they have to read. If you know that they're interested in the topic, host a seminar on that topic. And the thing that you offer is invitation to come to that seminar and actually learn about it. That's a terrific way of combining multiple prospecting methods into one. But the point is, when you have this information, when you have a profile, and of course, the deeper the profile, the better. When you are offering information and content and materials that are on the things they care about, that is such a terrific and easy way to get leads to begin committing to you, to getting to know you, and again, begin to feel and have trust in you as a financial advisor.
Yeah. And the other option too, just to throw this out there, is make sure you have videos on your website that discuss these topics also. So yes, send them the physical report because that tangible thing in their hand is going to be super beneficial. But if they can also go to your website and see a video of you discussing how to transition your business, or what are some of the pitfalls of transitioning your business, or what are some of the key things to think about that most don't, then you're just going to go that much further in their mind as the expert.
Excellent. And by the way, just as a quick little plug, the ebooks that you see on your screen, video scripts that for topics that Matt mentioned, we have all those things in the Bill Good Marketing content library. So if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely check out our content online. In fact, we have just posted a link to it in the chat. Now, the last thing I want to go over, really, and I'm going to do this quickly as I know we're running out of time, but this is also very critical. Based off the lead classification by temperature that we talked about, we know that people are in varying states of readiness of when they are ready and interested enough to meet with you. So people who are not yet at that 150 degrees, we want to make sure that we are staying in front of them, that we are building what Bill calls top of mind awareness. And what top of mind awareness is whenever someone has a question or a financial concern or a need, your name is always the first one they think about, always. Now, doing this, the single best way to do that is what we call our monthly drip. It's sending information of value and interest to them that establishes your trusted advisor identity every single month. Quick little tip here. Emails work for this. Physical letters work even better. There's a reason why we continue to recommend these to every single advisor, because it is the single best way of creating top of mind awareness. Now, how do we do that? The thing that we don't want to do is just fling material at them willy-nilly, because it's easy, it's short, your firm provided it for you, whatever. Anything that you send to your prospects, to your leads, should fit into one of those categories that Matt broke down earlier about the trusted advisor identity. It should position you as an expert. It should show you are a kind and caring individual, or it should demonstrate that you are a good citizen and an active member of your community. If it doesn't do one of those three things, it's worthless. You can do better. Okay, so how do we do that? First of all, in this cycle of creating top of mind awareness, we want to educate. Okay, educate means that we do what Matt's already talked about. We are providing answers to their questions. We're giving them information about things that are important to them. It's breaking down the financial topics and challenges that they have. It's explaining what's going on in the markets and in the economy so that they know and they can feel empowered to make decisions, even as the headlines may be confusing. It's serving as their financial alarm clock. So they know what they should be doing and what they should be thinking about at different times of the year or different stages of their lives. The more you do this, the more they begin to see you as a trusted advisor. It's also reassuring. One of the most important pieces of content that we provide on the Bill Good Marketing system is what we call hand-holding letters. Whenever there's major movement in the markets or scary headlines regarding the economy, the Iran conflict, tariffs, AI, the possibility of a bubble being some recent examples that we've covered here, you want to be reassuring your leads that you have things under control, that you have the answers, that there is a path forward to their financial goals. Because the more they feel reassured and the more you're doing the reassuring, the more they turn to you for any financial issue or concern that they have. So hand-holding is such an important part of this. Once we've established the foundation of educating and reassuring, we can move into the fun part, inspiring your leads, making them feel good about the world around them, making them feel encouraged about their path forward, making them feel good about their relationship with you, because you're providing them with heartwarming and inspirational stories and messages that they enjoy reading. One of the easiest ways to do that is simply through the holidays. If you let no holiday go by, but you cover every single one in your monthly drip, providing, again, inspiring stories about the holidays, they begin to see you as that good citizen, as that kind and caring individual. Hand-holding content, or sorry, holiday content is absolutely magical when it comes to creating top of mind awareness. Doing all this creates what Bill calls good, what Bill would refer to as goodwill. The more people feel goodwill towards you, the more they think, man, that person's just a stand-up individual who does things because he's a good person or she's a good person, not just because they have a vested financial interest in talking to me. The more warmly they feel about you, the more likely they are to want to do business with you. I mentioned sending birthday letters and etiquette messages. If you know a lead just got married, or you send them a short little message congratulating them. If you know they had a death in the family, you send them a message with your condolences and with your sympathy. If you know that anything happened in their life, positive, negative, anything important to them, you recognize it and you communicate about it. And that is what builds goodwill. Done all together, this creates top of mind awareness. And when you do this consistently over weeks, months, sometimes years, but as Matt mentioned earlier, it can be much, much shorter than that, you will build to what I call a tipping point. Now, a tipping point, very briefly, is that moment in time when someone rapidly changes their behavior. And on the surface, it may seem abrupt or sudden or random, but it's actually the result of hundreds or thousands of individual moments accumulating over time that lead to that sudden change. We see this everyday life. It's what makes a person decide to finally ask out the person that they have a crush on. It's what makes a person decide to truly commit to getting healthy or in shape and then sticking to that commitment. We want to be building to tipping points by creating that top of mind awareness, because that's that tipping point that causes a lead to suddenly pick up the phone and go, you know what? I need to talk to you. It's time that we sit down. You are the person that I want to move forward with when it comes to reaching my financial hopes and dreams. So if we do this consistently, building this top of mind awareness, building to a tipping point, you will turn the leads in your pipeline into hot prospects and the hot prospects into clients. And that is what makes the fastest growing advisors in the industry as successful as they are. Okay, very briefly, I want to go over, Matt, just talk about this really quick. The biggest mistakes in lead development that we see. I know we only have a minute or two, Matt, so just give us a quick rundown on some of these so we're aware of them.
Yeah, well, so first off, obviously, we talked about a lot of things that you have to have in place in order to be appealing to prospects. So you've got to do that first. Next, just understand that it does take time to build the trust, as we've discussed. Uh, Finally, instead of just sticking with some of these lead sources or generation sources that, hey, sure, it pays for itself, much better to go into the higher ROI activities that we've documented over the decades, and they have pretty much stayed the same. I've had advisors tell me in the past, and this I'll just make the case for this. I've had advisors tell me in the past that they don't have time for building strategic partnerships or maximizing referrals because as of right now, with their seminars and their leads that they get from such and such lead development company, they're just overwhelmed, so they don't have time for it. And I just it's like hitting my head against a brick wall because it like, well, but why not? Why not go spend time with people that you like and trust and know and that you love spending time with and have them send you business? Wouldn't that be a lot easier than paying for a name? So don't push off these high ROI activities to settle for some of these things that are just generating names or even just basic levels of leads.
I love that. Thanks, Matt. Now, that's the lead development process. This is the pipeline we're trying to create. We are trying to identify who is a hot prospect, who is a B prospect, a C prospect, a D prospect. Then we are trying to profile them, get to know them, build up the trusted advisor identity, create top of mind awareness to move them into the sales cycle, and from there, becoming a client. This is what an actual true winning sales pipeline looks like. So remember this process, begin implementing this process, take these steps, and if you do them, you will find that your business begins growing faster and faster and faster. Now, if you want help with establishing a true winning sales pipeline, with mastering the art and science of lead development. Well, that's what the Bill Good Marketing System is for. The Bill Good Marketing System contains all the strategies and processes you need so you know exactly what to do for every aspect of your business based off of all the best practices that we have discovered, tested, and verified over the years. It's the coaching to answer your questions, help you overcome obstacles, and ensure you remain doing the things you need to do. It's the content you need in order to actually build up that top of mind awareness with your clients and prospects. And it's the technology to automate everything you can so that you can spend your extremely valuable time doing the things that only you can do to deepen relationships and make an impact on people's lives. So if you want to learn more about the Bill Good Marketing System, please check us out. And if you'd be interested in getting a free roadmap to a double, as we call it, which is a projection we provide on what you can do to grow your business, we're going to have information on that when you go and get your goodie bag. Finally, one other thing I want to make sure you know about, and this is something we have called the Asset Accelerator. Matt, why don't you tell us what this is really quick and why it matters to those who want to improve
Yeah.
their.
So basically, if you want to master everything we've discussed today and you want to walk through the whole process, or hey, even if you've got the whole process down, but you just don't seem to be getting new clients, you get people coming into the office and leaving, that is literally what this class is about. It's 3.5 days of a straight out push. It is like drinking from the fire hose, but I walk every advisor there through this. Now, I do keep them small, so there is not a lot of seating, and they tend to fill up fast. So we've just opened up this one, and it's already got some seats filled. So if you are interested, there is a link there in the chat to see more.
Yeah, definitely check this course out. It's incredible to see the momentum that graduates of this class have when they go back to their office and begin implementing the things that Matt teaches. It really is remarkable, and something that Matt has spent so much time and put so much love and care into, so advisors can do everything that they want to be able to do in order to grow their business. It's phenomenal. Okay. We promised you a goodie, and a goodie you will receive. In order to get the sales pipeline guidebook that we talked about, which gives you a lot of the information that Matt was breaking down earlier, all you have to do is fill out a quick little report card. Let us know how we did today. Let us know how we can help you or what we can cover in the future. As soon as you fill out the report card, which only takes about 60 seconds, it'll take you immediately to the goodie bag where you can download the sales pipeline guidebook. So all you have to do is just scan the QR code on your screen or visit bgmtips.com/gold It'll take you to the report card, and from the report card to the goodie bag itself. I think that's everything from us. I thought this was a terrific session. I thought we covered a lot of really important material. Matt, again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your experiences with us. It's always such a pleasure and a benefit for me personally. I hope it benefited all of you. And to you, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. We always really appreciate when you join us for these webinars. Make sure you catch us for next month's webinar as well. Make sure you claim your goodie bag. And finally, from all of us here at Bill Good Marketing, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great rest of your month. Thank you very much.